Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today is Monday, August 29th, 2022. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. And welcome, everyone who's listening over on Podbean. I'm sorry, listening on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Welcome. And welcome, Bob. Welcome. You are number one. And Shelby, welcome back. You are number two. Frankie, you're pulling in at number three, and the only crazy lady is here. Number four. Hey, everyone. Okay, let's see. Okay, I am going to stop it right here. Okay, there we go. So welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. And to Ba, happy Monday Eve. Okay, so today I'm going to say this to you guys because you guys are here on the platform, and this is for people who are in Podbean and also for people who have commented in the chat over on the other platforms, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I am going to have to welcome Stinga and Gifty Blankson. I am going to have to reiterate my rules for the show. Last Thursday got out of hand, and I am going to take the incomplete blame because it is my show, and I should make sure that I have control over my show. So this is just to let everyone know, and I will repeat this, probably when more people come in. Well, actually, I know I'm going to repeat it, but no calling people the C word, the B word, any other word in the chat, and especially on the panel. I have talked to my admins or have sent them emails to know that you are not getting a warning. You will immediately be bounced. So, yeah. So that's not going to happen. I would like to have a respectful show, and that is what I am going to have to do. So I have to go back to my strict ways, like I was before. So and I didn't even post Thursday show. I'm not going to post it. I re-listened to it twice, and I was shaking my head, and actually I should have ended the show early, but I did not. So, shall we listen to you guys? All right. So, and then the other thing too is I am going to try my best. When my first show first started, I kept my shows to an hour, and then the conversations really started to get deep and whatever, going to 2 hours. Guys, my other life has just gotten busy. And I'm going to try to keep the show to an hour and 15. Again, I said try. I understand, like I said, sometimes we can get rolling on a topic and it can go on and on, but that is my goal, to have 1 hour, no more than hour 15 shows, at least for a while. So, having said all that, got all the housekeeping out of the way, I want to talk about performing your wage. Should employees go out of their way for the amount of money they're paid? And this subject came up. Oh my goodness, I forgot who I was talking to, but I was talking to someone over the weekend, and they were talking about, people who make minimum wage. Should they go out of their way to do more? If their job is supposed to be just be the cashier, should they just check you out and that's it? Um, if they're on their way to lunch, um, should they stop and help you, even though it could take away from some of their lunchtime, whatever? Um, if they're if they get off work and they're on their way home and you're running into the store and you ask a question or something, should they help you? So basically what I'm saying is, like I said, performing your wage. Is it okay for people to just perform at the salary um, that they're making? Okay, so you guys hold on one second. I'm sorry, I have my window open and it's causing a lot of noise. Okay, I apologize for that. All right, so hey, Juju, welcome. So Shelby says that, or I'm sorry, Stinger says some bosses like initiative. Yes, that is true, but are people rewarded? And right now with the way the cost of living is and everything, but even before inflation and everything, cost of living has always been rising, 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 and wages have never caught up. So if I'm getting paid, minimum wage, and especially if you, and I know we talked about this with teenagers like last week, but if you're getting paid minimum wage, and if you have an abusive customer, should you have to deal with that? I mean, is that in your, you know, is when you signed up, is that what your job said that you were supposed to do? Um, you have a lot of places now where uh, if people steal, employees are told not to go after them because if they get hurt, um, they won't get, you know, they're pretty much told don't go after them. For flight attendants, and this is what it was. I was talking to someone about flying, and one of the people I was talking to was a flight attendant. I knew this conversation came from somewhere. Um, Flight attendants are not paid to help you put your bag in the overhead compartment. They in fact in their contract it says do not do it, because if they get hurt, picking up a heavy bag or something, and they have to go on workers' comp, um, they're on their own. The company doesn't pay, or the airline doesn't pay for them to do that. And basically, if you can't pick it up, what makes you think they can? So should you get so should you perform at your wage? And considering that you have a lot of flight attendants that don't get paid much anyway, um, should they? So that's the question that I have, and like to know what you guys think. Thank you everyone for liking the show. Thank you, thank you. So anybody? Nobody has a comment? Okay, y'all gonna make me work again today, but that's cool. All right. So the other question, up, Bob is coming up.
Hi.
Hello, Bob.
Audio.
Hello. I can hear you.
Yeah. Um, I like this topic a lot because I've got a few stories of my own, and I've been in an industry that I've worked for minimum wage. I've also worked for £23 an hour, which is really good for the UK. So I think mainly when you enter into a contract with a company, you're signing up to your responsibilities and what your job entails. So you are agreeing to that wage. However, with inflation, I think that's where the argument can come in that the company that you work for aren't meeting, the inflation rates, which I believe they're supposed to. I don't think they don't have to, but they should. And especially when they're putting up their prices that they charge for you for your labor to other customers. Like for example, I believe I know one of the companies I worked for recently was charging £100 an hour for me, and I was only receiving £14 an hour for it, which I think is it's they're taking the biscuit. They're obviously accounting for the materials used, my labor, and other things. But if they're going to put up the price of those other things, they should also put up my wage. So there is that argument as well.
So, okay, so what about what Shelby says? Shelby says, I think as an adult, when you work for retail, it is a given that the public are nasty. Um, but Bob, do you think that a company should automatically, well, I want to address what Shelby says, but to what you said, do you think that a company should automatically be required to pay you a quote unquote living wage?
Yeah, I think they should. I don't know what the actual agreement is, like if they have to or if they've at least got to do some sort of matching, because we're supposed to get annual pay rises, and I believe that in my industry the government do give us every year, but it's up to the individual company, if they give it to us. So I don't know. I think there would be something that we'd have to look into there, because I know at my last company they kept complaining that out of the last 10 years they had a pay rise 2 years out of 10, and inflation obviously is going up every year, so they're 8 years behind inflation. And I think some of them believe that the company was receiving, government money to give to us, but they were keeping it. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how that works, whether that's true or not. But if they're going to put up the cost of their, like I'm a welder, so if my company is going to charge the customer who we're welding work for extra every year because of inflation, then they should then put my wages up. So there's that argument, I think. But in
Okay,
regards to Shelby's comment,
go ahead.
we also have the responsibility to not take that shit from people. Like, we are not there to be slaves or to be, yes men. We have to look up for ourselves as long as we're polite and we do our jobs. If you look at your job description and you follow that out, you don't have to take any extra. And if your boss puts extra on you, there's only so much that I would say, look, you do it out of the goodness. And obviously, like, I think I'm not near my phone just now, so I know someone said at the start something about, um,
Ta-
I've lost my point.
taking the initiative.
Initiative, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, like, obviously employ to impress our employer, and hopefully they give us a pay rise, or give us more responsibilities and then pay us more. There is that as well, but at the same time, don't be taken for a mug. Don't do things, if it's without your job description, then that's extra, and it's on you to say yes or no.
Okay, so all right, so then let me ask this, because do you think this is fair? Yes, your boss would like for you to, go that extra mile and everything, but what if you have two people who are doing the exact same job? Both of them are hard workers, but just because I stay late, and I'm not getting paid for it, does that mean that when it comes time to get that raise or get that, get bumped up to the next level or whatever, that I don't get, you know, I don't get moved up just because I didn't stay late, but you did? I mean, is that fair? Because there are some people who,
I mean, that's all in the eyes of.
go on.
When you go, I think there's a delay.
Well,
I
no,
was
I
just going
mean,
to say, I think that's in the eyes of the employer. I think there's a delay here. Carry on. You carry on.
no, no. I was just going to say, is that fair? Because what if you have a family, or what if you're taking care of a sick child, or a sick, mom or dad or something, and you're able to stay late, but I can't. So should I get penalized because I literally cannot stay late, but you can?
See, this is a. I know you're not going to like what I'm going to say here, but I think yeah, because like we know, if you were a business, well, you are a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
If you employed people and you needed them to stay late for you, you're going to cherish the ones that are doing that for you. And I don't think there should be any, this discrimination thing. I think sometimes can go too far, because if you're a business owner and you've got deadlines to meet and you've got employees that just will not work overtime for you, they are contracted to 40 hours a week and they do the 40 and they go home because they don't need the money or they value their time out of work. Then when it comes around to the people that you want to promote or give more money to, I think that it's common sense to give it to the ones who give it their all. And I don't think that's discrimination. I really don't. I know a lot of people all push back and say, well, that's unfair if you've got a sick child or something in your life that you just can't. Well, then I know it's a shame, but it's just sorry, it's tough cookie. Like I don't think we should be putting sanctions on employers for taking on certain people, like the whole gender pay gap thing. Like I know there is an argument that companies take men on because they know that at some point in a woman's life she may want to have children, and I don't think you should look at that employer and go, you have to take on 50% women and 50% men, because ultimately that could destroy their business if
Mm-hmm.
if half of their women go off and have kids and they're left in the lurch. So it's a good. I feel it's a good thing that we have less restrictions on that, because as much as I can't stand the employers nowadays because they're all out for their own pockets and they don't treat their workers well, as majoritively, and I've been a victim of that all throughout my life. I can assure you, I also wouldn't put any laws or limits on what they can and can't do in regards to who they employ, because they're only looking out for their best interests as well.
Okay. All right. Well,
I have a question. I have a question, Solid, to Bob.
uh-huh.
When
Yep.
with the comment that he just said, we have been put in the position years ago. My husband and I worked in the same company. Okay, my husband made more, of course, than I did. We had children, and I was always the one that stayed home with them as they were sick. But at one particular time, I did have my boss look at me and say, well, why doesn't your husband stay home with the children when they're sick instead of you? Now, I responded to my boss stating the fact that my husband made more money than I did. So it's only right for my husband to work and me stay home. Do you agree with that?
Did did uh, did he make more an hour for the same job as you? Is it the
No,
same
we
job
done
title?
we worked in different departments, but yes,
Okay.
he made more money.
Yeah. Well, then that's common sense on your behalf. Like, to let him, if you made more, then I would say then it would be common sense for him to stay home. I've always said I'm not, a misogynist who believes the woman should stay home and the man should go to work. I think if the woman makes more and it's more beneficial for the man to stay home, then that's, to me, that's the best way.
Okay. Um uh I think that in my personal opinion, Solid, that a lot of the situation these days, it shows that the company, yes, doesn't care about the way that they treat their workers. If you do, like you said, if you have two people that are up for the same promotion, say, and they one can't stay and the other one can. Sometimes I have seen where the one that can't stay, if they're more qualified, they do get picked over the one that's been there and does stay, and work their tail end off. I've seen that happen.
Okay, and Shelby, what I was I also wanted to add was I am a business owner, and the most people I've ever had working for me is five. Now that may not be a lot. I don't have 1,000 people working me, a couple hundred, whatever. But every person that I have ever worked for has always and on various times it's like, okay, they know that they're only going to be working for this amount of time, and then the job is over. They're going to be working this amount of time, the job is over. They have always come back. And one reason is because when I hire people, first of all, I try to make sure that everybody can get along and play in the same sandbox together. That is number one. And number two, I asked them, do you have any family? Are you married? And technically, you're not supposed to ask these things, but I ask it because I let them know that if there's a situation that you have to leave early, or you can't come in, or you cannot do this, I try to accommodate people, because one thing I have done, I have never, ever hired someone that I have ever had to fire, ever. I have always hired people who always come back saying, are you going to be doing this, whatever? I want to work for you. And I try to be fair. I really, really do. Because if your people like working for you, and they like you, they're going to like the job. They're going to want to stay. And Shelby, you're absolutely right. I have been in situations where people who did have to leave, they only worked 9 to 5. At 5 o'clock, they were gone because of this, and this, but they were excellent workers, and they did get chosen over the one that stayed late and, did whatever. So I think it all depends upon the person. I don't think that just because you are, staying late, that you automatically show that you're a harder worker. That's not necessarily true. But to both Ba and Shelby, since both of you all are up here on the panel, I would like to know: do you think people should still, if you're only making a certain amount of money, you should only work at your wage? Like, you hear all the stuff that's going on with um, um, Amazon and the way they are treated. So does that mean that if that Prime package that is supposed to get out so you can get it tomorrow, and I'm the one that's supposed to be doing it, and it's 5 o'clock, it's time for me to go home, and you've been treating me like this, you don't treat me well, blah blah blah. Can I leave that package there and come back and do it the next day? And you don't get your package, instead of getting it in 24 hours, you're getting it in 48. Is it okay for me to do that because you're treating me a certain way? So therefore, I'm just going to work for what I'm getting paid to do. I'm not going to do any extra. And if any people get screwed along the way, oh well.
Now, in that situation, no.
Okay.
I think that they either need to find another employee that can stay and help get that package out, or you're gonna have to stay and get that package out.
Okay. Bye.
I was just going to say, I don't agree with that, but I do know, and I've done it myself, where you'll just end up, your attitude will change and you'll just do the bare minimum. As long as you're doing the things that you're paid to do, that's in your job description, then they can't fire you. You keep yourself right. You don't burn bridges if you think you might need the company again.
Mm-hmm.
But the attitude goes out the window. And I've seen me even taking jobs, and after like a month, my attitude just goes, well, I'm not going to be here much longer because I was promised so much in my interview, and I know that that's not going to be the case anymore. So I would advise anyone to not burn bridges, because you never know where you might need to go back and work for that company again. But ultimately, the attitude will change, and you won't feel wanted, or that you can trust the company and all that stuff. But I don't agree with, like, being nasty and not doing your job properly. That's totally wrong.
Okay. All right. So, do you guys believe that in terms of the cost of living, that if an employee and Amazon, I'm choosing them because they are extremely successful. Jeff Bezos, he has a crap load of money. Should companies be required, and I'm using the word required, should they be required to give raises based on their revenues? Like if you are doing really, really well, then everybody in your company should automatically get I'm just throwing out a number. Everybody should automatically get a 5% raise.
There's
And,
there's definitely a there's definitely an argument for that. I don't know how that would work, but yeah, that would be something that would be definitely beneficial to talk about, because some of these companies are making millions, trillions, billions of profits annually, and meanwhile the worker is still struggling. So maybe put in like something in a contract that says that for every million you make, you must donate so much to the workers and give them a rise to meet the cost of inflation. That's certainly something we could talk about. Yep.
okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Wait. I'm going to pass this over to the only crazy lady, but let me read what Juju says. She says, August 26, 2022, 5 Amazon warehouses in the Bay State are slated to close down. A company spokesperson said the warehouses are located in Dedham, Everett, Mansfield, Milford, and Randolph, according to Amazon, at first reported by the Boston Globe. Okay, and that's in Massachusetts. Okay, crazy lady, welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Uh, Ross. Okay, he gives like way more than what he's paid. Um, and but he really likes his job. You know, and you know, he just so it and they know they should pay him more. Like his bosses around here. But corporate, how corporate is ran corporately. Um, but the way Ross looks at it is like we live here and we don't have to pay rent and electricity and water and all of that. So it kind of like evens out in his eyes.
I
So
mean, but crazy lady, for something like that, I understand that it's a give and take, and there's a trade
yeah,
off that you're making. But if you were paying rent, if you were paying rent and doing everything else, at what point you know because to me people like Ross, um, when those people do quit, then all of a sudden they realize what they're missing. So at what point does it not become a trade-off anymore? And or put it like this, in your situation it is, but at what point does should an employer say this is a really good worker, they're going way out of their way, we should do this and this? And I'm not talking getting a ham on Thanksgiving. I'm talking about putting some ching ching into my pocket.
I agree that it should be like Ross didn't get a raise for like years, then all of a sudden he got a $2 raise, and they're trying to get him another raise. So yeah, I think that companies, especially if you have like a good employee that really does, put that extra in because they love the company. And I think like don't corporations like have like that 401k where they have to like match so much employee and like if they have like a really good fiscal year, they have to like put in extra.
I think it depends upon the company. I used to work for a telecommunications company that would match whatever we put in our 401k. They would match it dollar for dollar. Whatever stock shares we purchased, they matched it dollar for dollar. But that was years ago. I don't know if they're doing stuff like that now.
Yeah, because
So
Ross has got like something where they match like so much, and then um depending on how like the venue they whatever venue you work at, like if they have like do a certain amount, they get like extra in their
okay,
funds or
all
something
right,
like that.
all right. So let me ask this, because Shelby said And Shelby, I want you to go into more. And see, and Bobby says, I think both parents should go to work if they don't have kids. If you don't have
Yeah.
kids, you're not a parent. I'm sorry, Bobby. I just saw that. Okay, and Bobby also says, I think there always should be a pay raise. Okay, so Shelby, you said, I think as an adult, when you work for retail, it is given that the public are nasty. And yes, it is given that you are going to meet some people who you just wish, you just didn't see. But at the same
Yeah.
time, if you're getting paid, like if you're working at Walmart or Target, one of those places where you're, working part time because they don't want to pay benefits, whatever. You're working your butt off, and you get these nasty people. Do you have to be nice? I mean, I'm not saying curse them out, but like I said, they come up to you and they're demanding this, and this, and this, and you know, I'm sorry, but that's out of my pay grade. I mean, when can you walk away?
Well, that's hard to say. And I agree, it's above the pay scale, but you would have to. And I worked in retail at a Christian bookstore, and we did have to, we were always told, just think about the person in their shoes. What if you came to work in a bad mood and you were biting everybody's heads off? How would you think the customer would feel if you went to help them and you were like, well, I just really don't have the time to help you today. Just go to someone else. They would tell us that, and of course you would get fired after that. But it's a same trade off. You just have to just imagine how they would feel if you done what they had done to you.
Okay, and you make a very good point. Juju says AT&T stopped that 15 years ago. Yeah, a lot of companies stopped that matching dollar for a dollar. But I will say, when I was working at a particular telecommunications company, it was nice while it lasted. Okay, so. And Crazy Lady, okay, so she's doing some work around the property, and she says, "I'm not even on payroll, and I'm working." But you have that trade off. And Crazy Lady, I'm gonna tell you, if I could do something where I didn't have to pay mortgage or rent, and take care of something like that, to me, you probably have it a lot better than people who are having to pay rent and they are struggling. So I actually, think that you are in a good situation. Um, okay, so Shelby, and this is for everyone else out there. Welcome, Shy Lady. Oh, by the way, I have to throw this out here again for people who are just coming in. I did say at the beginning of my show that number one, I'm going to keep my shows, try to keep them to an hour 15 for the next couple of weeks. And also because of what went on last Thursday. Anyone who says anything rude, nasty, whatever, no warning, you're automatically getting bounced. And if you say things like the C word, the B word, or any other word that you're not supposed to use, you are automatically getting blocked. So, all right. So, what did I want to say? Oh, Shelby. Okay. So, what if you're working at 7-Eleven or some of these other, I don't know, some people have AM, PMs, whatever, just these 24-hour places where you can come and get gas and what have you. And usually there's only one person working there and they're by themselves. And usually those are the places that get robbed at like 2:00 in the morning, whatever. Is it shouldn't the employer make sure that there are, number one, more than one person working? And and more than likely those people are getting paid minimum wage. I mean, they may be getting time and a half because they're working, later. But at the same time, if someone were to come in and they want to rob the place, I'm giving them the money. It's like, here, take it. I don't care. You all can come in here and take the entire store. Just don't kill me. So should employees like that go above and beyond? And you can say, well, they knew what they're getting into. They chose to work those hours, but they didn't choose to put themselves in danger. I guess, should an employer, like if you work at a bank, there's going to be a guard there, to make sure that if the place does get robbed, that there are, people there. In some schools now, you have, where they have security guards that are supposed to help and what have you. But if you're working at a 7-Eleven or some of these all night places and it's just you, isn't your employer required to do something?
I think they are now, especially since you have mass shootings just about anywhere. My daughter recently was working at a gas station, and she told me they had her plus another person, and one that walked the premises. So, they had 3 people there. But yeah, they do have it differently where I live now, in different cities. And I live close to 4 different cities.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like that at all 4 cities. They have at least 3 workers, 2 inside of one that walks the premises. So, but yeah, I agree. They, in any situation now, there's at least 2 in any aspect that you called off, that's got, that's different now. It's just different compared to what it was years ago.
Okay, now I'm going to open up a can of worms. So, and I don't mean to, and I'm going to talk about school shootings, but I'm not trying to get on the go down the political route or anything. So please don't go down that rabbit hole. With teachers who, in some cases now, some people are saying that they want teachers to be armed. Does that mean that if I go to school to be a teacher, does that mean that part of my training, welcome pink squirrel, does that mean that part of my training as a teacher should be that I'm trained in firearms, that, while I'm learning how to do this and this and how to, do this with the first grader or this with the 9th grade or whatever, that I'm also learning how to lock in load? And should I expect that if you want me to carry a firearm, that you're just not giving me an extra $2 an hour? You're giving me a substantial amount of money. And if I do have that gun and I'm just a teacher, I'm not law enforcement or anything else, and something were to happen, what if I didn't shoot? What if I froze up or whatever? Should I have some type of protection, or should I just perform at my wage? This is what I'm getting paid to do. This is what I'm doing. Don't ask me anything more. So, Shelby, I'm gonna come back to you because you're on the panel, or anybody else who wants to chime in.
Okay, this is my opinion on that. If I was put in that situation and it was my best friend's child, I would do whatever possible to protect that child.
But I know what you said. It was your best friend's child. What if it was just child A, B, and C? Would you still try to protect them?
I would still protect that child.
Okay. All right.
I still would do whatever. Now, as far as pay, the state I live, we're just now catching up with the 20 some odd century that we're in and getting our teachers pay raises.
Okay.
So I would have to say a pay raise would not be a difference to me. Also, but yeah, I just, to me, children are our greatest future, and I would do whatever I could to protect the child.
Okay, but Shelby, what if, and Shy Lady, I am going to pop over to you, but Shelby, what if it's that teacher who, okay, they have the gun, they do whatever, and they just freeze?
Freeze up?
Yes. Are you going to be, I mean, is it fair to get upset with that teacher if they freeze up, especially if some students in her class were harmed?
I think I would get more mad at myself, but I don't think so, because especially if you're a woman and you're put in that situation, would you not freeze up?
Honestly, I can honestly say I don't know. Man, woman, whatever. I honestly don't know. I've never been in that situation, and I can honestly say I don't know what. I mean, I would like to think that I wouldn't, but then again, I could. I don't know.
Right. So I mean, in any situation of, trying to protect that child, if it's a gun situation, you never know what's going to happen. If you're going to freeze up or if you're going to go hog wild and just start shooting. You don't know till you're put in that situation. So I mean, you would just have to, I wouldn't say just wait and see, but I mean, you just couldn't, that's just something you would have to pray about.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna go over to Shy Lady. Welcome. Are you there, Shy Lady? Okay, I know.
Hey, I'm here. I'm just driving.
I was about to say, I know you're usually driving. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had to unlock my phone. So anyway, I know we like on two different subjects now, as far as employee wages and doing the job that they're paid or whatever, and then the school shootings. If it's one of those situations, should you basically risk your life or whatever to protect the kids in the school? And I just say that it's a choice in terms of where you work and how much you're willing to work for, how much you're willing to work for. It's a choice. So I'm the kind of person, regardless of what I'm making, I do the very best I can. I just go all out and I do the very best I can, period. And if I don't like a particular situation, I find a way to find another job or do something else. So that's just the type of person I am. And I think most people don't believe that they're getting paid what they're actually worth. Because at the last job that I was in, I was doing the work of probably 4 or 5 people, and it was a situation where God knew that I needed to get out. So that was a way that I got out. But I think that in a situation like, I agree with Shelby and you, I wouldn't know if I was in a situation where I was a teacher and I had the not the opportunity, but I was in a situation where I had a gun for protection that was approved by the school district or whatever. I would probably be freaked out because you don't know what you would do in that situation. But as always, I would do the very best I can. But that's just me. I think that if you're given a job and you feel like you're not getting paid enough, then you probably should look for another one.
Okay, all right. Now I'm going to ask this because on a couple of shows, people have said, you're not happy with the job, look for another one. So my question is, and I've asked this question before, why should you have to look for another job? Why shouldn't the employer be, this is the only way that I can say it, be forced to or be made to make it better? Why should you have to, go find another job just because your employer is being a dick, or whatever. I mean, and I'm not even saying that you have some, especially if you're at ma and pop type place, they may not financially be able to do things for you on a financial side, but they may be able to do things for you other ways, and for some people that's fine. But again, and I bring up Amazon again only because Amazon is just so successful, and how much money that they make. But if you have a place like that where their employees are not being treated the best that they can, and but someone could really love their job, why should they have to leave as opposed to just, can you just, treat me a little better? That if I have to go use the washroom or whatever, can you just not make a big deal of it and just let me go and come and so I can get back? So at what point is it, instead of us leaving, but you just make it a little bit better?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I didn't want to interrupt. I would say in a situation like that, talk to your immediate, excuse me, manager or supervisor or whatever. If that's the case, talk to them and let them know how you feel. Um, if it's very important for you to stay at that company, or if it's a small business, if it's important for you to stay at that organization, maybe you should talk to that person. But I find that in most cases, employees have very, very little power, especially if you live in a state that is right to work state, Texas. You have the laws in Texas are designed for the employees, and in it. But all I can say is that if you're unhappy in a situation, to get some more skills to make more money, or just leave, or just find another position and move on. It's really hard, especially with the large companies. It's really hard to go to battle with these companies, because a lot of times these companies will put people as managers in these positions, and a lot of them are not. They may have good uh, skills in terms of book sense, master degrees, and all that, but a lot of times they're not people oriented, and they should not be managing people. And a lot of times it's hard to work with those kind of people, and it's hard to get rid of them. So it's really an unfortunate situation, because I'm sure most people would love to get 10% raises if they're doing 150% as far as exceeding the goals and all of that, but it's just not realistic anymore.
Okay. Now, Bobby says, I work inside of a warehouse where people do a lot of overtime and do extra hours to get paid more on their wages. And Crucible says, because he's the boss. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but Crucible, welcome. You have the mic.
Hello, everyone. How is everybody doing today? I'm going to push back a little bit, play devil's advocate a little bit, while acknowledging, yes, there are plenty of lousy workplaces, plenty of lousy bosses. We've all worked in situations where there have been good environments and bad environments, and we can tell the difference. But having been an employee and a manager in my career, the reason I made that comment, because he's the boss, that was a little bit totalitarian. I didn't mean it quite that harshly. But in a workplace, I don't care if it's a 7-Eleven or if it's a Fortune 500 company, you've got to have a general set of guidelines and workplace rules that everybody needs to follow. Now, if you want to generate some kind of performance-based incentives where people can leave early on a Friday, or they can work from home a couple days a week, that is strictly and empirically performance-based. In other words, if your last performance review was this or higher, you now get certain privileges, but it has to be very specific and very empirical. It can't just be, well, she's been doing better. Well, how so? What do you mean? How are you measuring that? So you've got to be fair and you've got to be consistent. But if you start trying to accommodate the workplace for every person who's got a grievance of some kind, we all know how difficult employees can be. And yes, there are some very pig-headed, idiotic managers to boot. I am not going to defend managers across the board. However, and this may be an extreme example that I'm giving, but The workplace environment, as far as it being acceptable or not, can be a very subjective thing in the eyes and ears of the beholder. What I find to be a perfectly acceptable work environment may be chafing the hell out of you and you're getting ready to quit. So I do agree with Shy Lady. Raise it with your boss if you think you have reasonable demands, if that's the right word, or reasonable issues that need to be addressed, or you're going to quit, then you should do that. But if workplaces were in the business of having to constantly accommodate an employee with a stone in their shoe over something, the general workplace rules go right out the window. And now you're ad hocing everything, you're seat of the pantsing everything, you're making it up as you go along almost. And there's got to be some consistency. That's why you have these corporate HR offices. And what a lot of people don't know until they've been in the environment, and I did work in a couple of different corporate environments, the way they have the whole performance thing set up is there's only ever going to be a certain amount of excellent reviews, a certain amount of very good reviews, and there's a certain amount of unacceptable reviews. That is baked into the system because it's compensation based. If everybody got an excellent review, the company would go broke because they'd be giving out raises based on excellent reviews. So that cake is baked before anybody shows up for work. So there's a certain amount of unfairness, let's just put it that way, in the system based on those kinds of things. But I'm just going from a consistency and corporate standpoint. There must be guidelines in place for everybody. You can pivot off of those if you need to occasionally, but if you're in the business of constantly accommodating people who are unhappy, that's all you'll ever do.
Okay, and I'm going to say, and Crucible, I just have to say this, and at times you have some bosses that you have a performance review where they should have gotten a raise and they did not, and they were entitled to that raise and they did not get it. So I also want to say that I'm not saying that you have employees that are constantly, yes, you have those employees that, oh my God, he did this to me, and they constantly complain. I'm not talking about those people. I'm saying if you work at a place where the work environment is known to be not so nice, that you have places where the managers or the foreman or whatever, however you want to call it, are known to be not so nice, and they treat their employees a certain way, and people know this. Does the employer have a responsibility to correct it? I'm not saying that each person has their grievance, whatever. I'm saying if it is a place that is known to be an issue, that is what I'm referring to.
Okay, yes, in that case, absolutely, they have a responsibility. Your employees, and this is going to sound like a corporate cliche, and I don't mean it to, but your employees are your most valuable asset. If you do not treat them properly, they will go elsewhere, and then you've got nothing. The cost and time of constantly replacing employees, taken from someone who has had to do it many times, is so disruptive to business, it just isn't worth it. It's so much easier to create a better working environment. Turnover is a killer for businesses. So yeah, in that situation, absolutely. And if you don't get what you want, march your ass right out the door. That's a different situation. I would never put up with a hostile or toxic work environment, nor should anybody have to.
And that is one reason for me, as a boss, as someone that hires people, I try to make sure that I make sure that my employees are happy, and that whatever concerns they have, they can come to me and say, blah 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 blah, and I try to address each and every one of them. So, and again, I know I'm only talking about, like I said, the most I've ever had, working for me were like 5, but again, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have a shitload more, a lot more, whatever, and I'm going to continue to do the same thing, because turnover is expensive. Turnover is expensive, and not just for the person that's hiring. It's also expensive for the person that's looking for a job. So again, I go back to my original question: should employees go out of their way for the amount of money they're being paid? if you're getting paid, if you work at a job where you're getting paid a crap load of money, and does that mean that you should do something extra as opposed to the person who's getting paid a lot less, who their work environment is not that great? Is it okay for them to just do what they need to do and get their coat at the end of the day and go home?
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, I think in any kind of a workplace, you gotta you pick up on the management style, you kind of pick up on the culture, and you see what's rewarded, and you see what is frowned upon. And even though there may not be formal policies in place, you can go home at 5 o'clock if you've done your day's work. We all know there are certain managers who get a little petty and say, "Well, so and so stayed until 5:30, and you let the blah 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 blah." But if you're not completely happy in your workplace and you're fulfilling your responsibilities, you're doing your job according to the guidelines of that position, yeah, you ought to be able to march your ass out at 5 o'clock if that's what you've done. If you've done your work for the day, screw everybody else.
Okay. All right. All right. I once had, a supervisor who I had for all of 2 weeks who once told me, and uh, who once told me, and this was at a telecommunications company that I used to work for, who once told me that you're not married, you don't have a family. Why are you leaving at 5 o'clock? I marched down the HR so fast. It was like his head was like spinning. I'm like, seriously? Seriously? Like what? That I don't have another life? You don't know what I'm doing. So um, are we going to more and more just the way the work environment is and what have you, and the way people are being treated, not just customers treating the people that work there, but the way the people like Shelby said, um, uh, uh, um, you know, um, if that if you're being nasty, an employee can get up and be nasty too. They can, somebody comes up to them and says, well, excuse me, and they're like, what do you want? Yeah, of course. I mean, but more and more, what should the expectation be from customer, from employer, from the person who is working there? What should the expectation be? Because it just seems like just more and more people are they're just not happy. They're just seems like that they're just doing the bare minimum, and that's it. I mean, as a customer, it's like I was in a store the other day, and I was asking where something was, and they're like, oh well, it's over there. I was like, is it at the other end of the store? They're like, yes. They're like, well, you can leave your stuff here and go get it and come back. I'm like, you know what, never mind. I am ready to check out. Never mind. Just check me out, and that's it. I just see that people are just tired. So I'm gonna go to Shelby. Do you want to comment on any of that, or is Shelby's gone? Okay. So Shy Lady, are you there? Okay. Crucible.
Yeah, I mean, I encountered that. I'm guessing that you were. I shouldn't guess, but I'm speculating. Did you decide not to purchase the item because you would have liked it if they went to the other end of the store and picked it up, or what was the issue there?
I mean, I wanted it, and it's something that that I need, but I was just tired. I mean, I was just tired, and I was in a store where finding things were difficult anyway, and I was in the store longer than I should have, and again, I was just tired, and I don't want to be told that it's all the way at the other end of the store. I was like, never mind, if they had offered to go get it, I still would have said never mind. And I have had that before. I have gotten up to the counter, and they're like, oh, did you find everything you wanted? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, what are you looking for? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm here. Just check me out. I am ready to go. So when I get to, for me, I'm just the type of person when I get to the checkout stand, I'm ready to go. So
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's why I'm not much of a shopper. But I've been in many retail. We all have. That's a different animal, in terms of the employees. I've been in some stores. Target comes to mind, where it seems like there's more employees than customers. Yet nobody seems to know where anything is. Nobody seems to know what the hell's going on. They can't open up a new checkout counter. It's kind of like, is anybody in charge here? So yeah, the whole retail environment, you get a different animal. You typically don't, although these days that's probably changed to some extent. You didn't used to get people working in the retail environment for their careers. They were generally, stopping points before they started, their bigger career, whatnot. We all worked in a retail store at some point. A lot of us did, but now you're finding people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are committing to these jobs as careers. Now you may be getting a different caliber of employee there because there's a longer term commitment being made there as opposed to a high school kid or a college kid. But the quality of employee in that environment, whether they're poorly trained, poorly motivated, poorly compensated, all the above, I don't know. But it's got to be a very, very challenging place to hire people because you're right, people are just tired. You see them pushing their carts through the stores and they just want to get out. And the stores don't make it very easy to do that.
I mean, and that's how I am. It's like when I go, I don't like shopping. I don't like shopping at all. I'm not one for going into a store and trying something on, whatever. I would just grab it off the rack and I'll try it on when I get home. If it doesn't fit somewhere along the way, I will take it back. But for the most part, if I'm just shopping, if I didn't find it and I'm going up this aisle, down this aisle, whatever I'm looking for, and I'm looking to see, I'm looking at the guidelines, I'm looking at the signs on the store. If I can't find it, once I get to the checkout, that's it. I am done. I'm gonna, just let me pay and just leave. So so let's see. Minnesota family, thank you so much. Okay. Bobby says working inside a retail probably is a good job to work. I worked retail when I was in college. And I worked retail actually when I got out of high school. I'm just now thinking about a job that I had. And Bobby, that is one job that it was thankless then. And from what I see when I'm in the stores, I feel sorry for those retail workers. I really do. That's a hard job. That's a hard job. So what do you guys think about what I had said earlier, that if an employer has the money to pay, that based on their revenue, every employee should get a raise? So what do you all think about that?
Well, that's an interesting conundrum there. Ordinarily, regardless of the profit margins, you should be now bonuses. That's a little bit of a different story. Maybe if around Christmas or at the end of the year, if you've had a good year, you want to give out some $100 or $1,000 bonuses. I don't think there's anything wrong with that for everybody based on the performance of the company. But when it comes to individual raises, I would prefer to keep that on an individual basis. Um, I would want my raise to be predicated on my performance and my punctuality and my expertise and whatnot, as opposed to maybe some other subjective type thing. So
Oh no. I'm talking about a raise that, yes, it is based on your performance, but I'm saying, but you get a raise. Even if you're getting 1% and somebody else is getting 5%, but you're still getting that raise every year.
Yeah, I don't. I guess I'm sorry. I'm confused here. Are you saying that raises would be automatic for everybody, just a matter of how much, but everybody would get one?
Right. I mean, because the cost of living, the cost of living goes up. So you know that at the end of the year, or when your 12-month whatever comes around, you are going to get a raise. You may not get the same raise that Shy Lady is getting, or or Ba or something, but you know that you're going to get something.
Yes, I think as long as it's covering at least the cost of living, that's not a very lot to ask. But yes, I think people, because what it does, even if it's to you and I, maybe that's a modest sum of money. I don't know what retail workers make, 17, 18, $20 an hour. It's not a fortune. But so, and you're right, it's a very difficult job. It may not look particularly physically demanding, but you're standing all day long. And let's just take the checkout people. I know there's other positions in the stockroom and whatnot, but just take the checkout people who are the most visible. They're standing there for hours at a time. The monotony's got to be just crushing. The same thing over and over and over again, dealing with stupid customers. So even if you don't know how much your raise is going to be, the idea that there will at least be one, I would think mentally would be extremely important for those workers to be showing up every day. To know at the end of the year that you already know there's an overwhelming chance you're not going to get an increase in pay, that's a terrible way to run a company. So yeah, unless you've got a very poor performing employee who's late all the time and just as bad, which they're out there, but they're probably the exception. Everybody should have the expectation that if they do what they're hired to do, they'll get some increase at the end. I think otherwise, you're running the risk of seriously demotivating your workers.
And that's another thing too. I mean, I again, I understand that you have those people who, no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy. But I'm saying is, as a collective, if there are some places out there who people just love to work. I mean, there are just places that where I'm going to stay here for as long as I can. My boss treats me well. The company treats me well. But then you have others where they don't. So and that's where I'm asking: is that when you just perform your wage? And at the same time, when Shiley says that she's going to do the best that she can, but when does that get old? When does that get like, okay, I've been doing the best that I can. I've been doing this, and this, and this, but no matter what I do, they're still treating me like this. What do you do? So
I'd like to jump in.
uh-huh.
I'm in the store, so if I fade out, it's because the store's service is not good. But anyway, I want to say that in response to that, for me, I would either try to create my own something that I'm passionate about, or just look for another job. If I had the resources, I would create my own.
Okay, Charlotte, you did go out there. But no, I mean, and that's one reason why I work for myself. I got fed up, and I said there has to be a better way, and I work for myself. And at times it is hard, but um, from the place that I am at now, it was worth it and it's rewarding. So, Ba,
Yeah, can you hear me?
yep, I can hear you
Oh,
breathing.
yeah. Oh, sorry. um, no, I just wanted to pick up on something Crucible said. That's a good idea. I like the whole bonus thing. Something like time and attendance bonuses or early job completion bonuses would be a good incentive to keep people concentrating on their work and being good workers in general. I think as human beings, we always need something to work towards. So when that's taken away, our morale drops and all that stuff. But I've also noticed a common theme in the industry I work in where I'm hands on working on the tools and doing things. Meanwhile, for every worker, there's like 2 or 3 office staff per worker. Like it's very top heavy. And these office staff workers are annually salaried way more than what we get, and they get their bonuses for coming down at the end of the month and cracking their whip and saying, come on guys, we need you to get this job out, so that people like me have to work overtime and sometimes come in at the weekends and things, and they're the ones that are receiving the bonuses. So that's where I have a gripe against the I'm not going to say it's the system, but it's definitely a common theme with the industry I'm in, where it's kind of top heavy. They're all coming in their BMWs, and it's funny as well because I can only talk for my industry, but these are the guys that will come down and talk to you about the job, and it's clear that they know nothing about the job. They've sat in colleges or universities studying how to make a drawing of a product, but they actually don't know anything about it. So there's definitely a conversation can be had around, treating the worker better than they are in regards to, the company and where they are. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in real quick if I could, Solid.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Bob makes some excellent points. I think if you are able to, and I think any workplace can do it, it's just a matter of prioritizing it and making the effort. It's not rocket science. If you create an environment where people feel like, and it doesn't have to be a formal profit sharing plan per se, although that would be nice. If you tie people's performance to you compensate them on the individual effort, but you also tie their performance to the collective. In other words, pull together, let's get this job out early, and therefore there'll be extra bonuses for people because we will have made whatever the incentives were to get it done early, those incentives were hit. Now most people, and there's exceptions all the time obviously, but most people are motivated. They want to do a good job, they want to impress their bosses, they want to move up, they want to get promoted, they want to make more money. So if your bosses come down and say the next 2 weeks we really got to bust it, we got whatever it is, and at the end, if we do these things, everybody gets a bonus. Or at the end of the quarter, everybody gets a bonus. And now all of a sudden, you've attached people to a greater goal. They're getting paid for their own individual contribution, but they're also now being tied to a greater goal that says, you're important to this effort. You're critical to us being successful here. And when you give people a sense that they're not just a cog in a wheel, and you mean it, and then you compensate them accordingly, not only will you have a happy and loyal employee, now you've got somebody who the next time you come down and say the same thing, they're not just going to go, the last time they made that comment or that claim, they screwed us or whatever. So if you outline things clearly and you follow through, you've got completely, the workforce is completely of a different complexion at that point. Your culture is different. And not only do you not risk people leaving, you risk attracting people because you get a reputation for taking care of your workers.
Okay, so let me ask this. Welcome, Jester, because I'm going to be wrapping it up pretty soon. So let me ask this. So since employees get performance reviews, why can't bosses get them? Why can't your manager, your director, your CEO, why can't they get performance reviews? I mean, you have CEOs who, while you're paying me minimum wage, or even if I'm getting paid 20, 30 bucks an hour, you're still walking away at the end of the year with a $10, $20 million bonus. So hold on. So, shouldn't employers, your bosses, get reviews? Because I've had some bosses that my reviews would not have been nice, and others, they would have been, excellent. I'm not talking about when you get your review and then at the bottom it'll say, oh, so do you have anything that you want to add about your boss, whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your boss gets a review, and depending upon the feedback, that depends upon how much he gets for a raise or even his bonus.
Yeah. I, I totally agree. I've said this before. I've worked in at least two places that the common denominator in those places are that the supervisors or charge hands, they're the ones that have the issue. I look back fondly of my time at two companies in particular, other than the charge hands. They're the ones who drive down morale, and they are replaceable. They are people who have at one point in their life impressed and they've got the position of supervisor, but they've maybe taken advantage of it, or their attitude stinks, they've become a different person. And if they were took into a room and all the staff were to grade them on their performances, I think that the company itself would have to look about maybe changing that up for the best interest of the company. So yeah, I totally agree.
So how do we prevent and I don't mean to sound, well, I am going to come out and say this. How do you prevent the Diamonds and all these other CEOs from getting all of this money when the employees are not getting paid. I mean, they're not. So while we're so busy saying, "Oh, I go to work and I do the best that I can," but it's the CEO and the COO and all these other people, are they doing the best that they can? So then that's when I go back and say, why should I bust my butt and do my absolute best, and I'm just going to get, well, thank you very much. Maybe I will get a raise, but you can be damn sure that the CEOs are going to walk away every year with so much money that they can buy 1, 2, 3, 4 homes. Crucible.
Yeah, I think what CEOs make and what senior management makes at some of these companies is absolutely criminal. It's obscene on so many levels. The board of directors is the one who approves these compensation plans, and I know, at least in the case of the CEO and probably for several other senior people, a big chunk of their compensation is based on stock options. And so by tying an executive's performance to the performance of his stock, I think makes sense. It shouldn't be 100 times your salary, for Christ's sake. It should be 2 or 3 times maybe. And I made a comment earlier about profit sharing, and we've both worked at companies that didn't necessarily have profit sharing, but we could buy stock at a discount. And so it was not quite a stock option plan, but it was a similar kind of a program. And when we saw the stock go up, you knew, I'm getting this for a 15% discount. I've already made 15% on my money. And there is something about that sharing in that, of knowing that not only we're getting compensated individually for what we bring, but we're going to be compensated for what the whole company does. So any company that goes with a stock option plan or a profit sharing or something where it is clearly outlined, that's the key here. It has to be clearly outlined so people know specifically what they will receive if they do specific things. If it's vague, forget it and tear it up and start over. But if you're able to articulate it clearly, you can't measure the amount of morale that you get and the goodwill that gets generated. Plus, it's just a fair thing to do. And I don't care if 10% of those employees, quote unquote, don't deserve it because they suck. Too bad. Pay everybody, pay them something. Like you said, Solid, it doesn't have to be the same for everybody, but pay them something that will come back to you 100 times over.
Okay, so Crucible, I'm just going to say that we work at the same telecom company, and I have to say that I'm dating myself again. I was around when 401ks first came out, whatever, and we worked at a place where I took out the entire 15% out of my paycheck. I took out the entire 15% for my stock options, and that particular company at the time were matching dollar for dollar, and it was nice. It was nice, and that was stock that I never cashed in until they went out of business, and I made a nice amount of money. But at the same time, I do know that my bosses and people who are in the higher up bonuses were predicated on what we, the peons, did. So, if we weren't doing the work, then the bosses and the CEOs and all the other stuff, they would not be making the amount of bonuses and stuff that they would. So this is where I'm saying that if you're going to give a CEO a $10 million bonus, then I say you need to divide it by 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, however many employees are there, and divide it up that way. Or these CEOs do not walk away with $10, $20 million bonuses, because it's obscene. Especially when you look around, everybody's talking about, well, there's homeless here, there's homeless there, blah, blah, blah. You have all these other issues that are going on, and you're giving this person a $10 million bonus. Why? Yes, I understand the stock options and everything like that, but why are you giving them this much money? What did they do to warrant this much money? But yet this bank clerk or this Walmart person, whatever, they're only getting paid $15 an hour. And you're going to say, well, if you don't like the job, go someplace else. And that's when I say, why should I go someplace else when these top heavy people are making all this money and I can't, and you're struggling to, pay rent or whatever. So anybody?
Can I ask where this is this topic a relevant one to today and what's happening in America, or is it just something that's been on your list that you've decided to talk about? I'm just asking for
This
my own.
particular topic came from me talking to someone over the weekend, but in terms of
Okay.
what we're talking about, we've over a couple of weeks on my shows, this topic has come up. But in terms of CEOs getting paid these millions of dollars of bonuses, that is true. That is something that happens here.
I'm just saying because basically this conversation is you're talking about what Karl Marx wrote in his book about the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. It's basically the CEOs, which I don't think there's anyone on this planet, unless you are a CEO on the big bucks, that's gonna not talk out about it, because it is unfair. These people have taking advantage of the capitalist, or it's not capitalism for the peons. I like that. I'll adopt that phrase from now on. The peons. I like that. But they've taken advantage of the system and they've lined their own pockets. Meanwhile, we've been screwed over, and that's not true capitalism. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future this conversation starts to become more and more prevalent. And what I will tell you is, it will be changed, but I would say if they do implement some communistic values where they treat everyone the same, whether you're a CEO or you're a peon, I don't think that's also the right thing to do. I think we just want a fair slice of the pie, and what's going to happen is that we're all going to be given a small slice of the pie, and I don't think that's the better way to do it, because that's what ends up when you go to communism. Is we all think, well, we can all get, if the CEO is making $100,000 a year and we're making 20, let's both make 60. That's not how it'll work. We'll both probably make 20, 30, and the oligarchs will make the rest. So that's why.
No, I mean, and I understand that, but I'm just saying that while these people are making, I mean, because I've listened to what everyone says, and even Crucible, when you say that people who have a gripe, and in that case, and this is going to happen, but at the same time, you may have a gripe, but this CEO is still, like I said, walking away with $10 million in bonuses. So does my gripe, is that, I mean, should I really be dinged for having that gripe? I mean, even if I'm bitching and moaning about something that is so contrite and so silly, but at the same time, it's like, do I have a point? Especially when, again, the CEO of my company is walking away with a $10 million bonus.
Yeah, I'll just add quickly that the reason why I think we should be also see if you start a company, you have all the risk. Like, you've probably bought the building, you're paying a rent on the building, you've bought the machinery or whatever. You're the one with the risk, and the employees can walk away and get a new job tomorrow, or I mean, not in every country, because that's getting harder and harder because there's so many people, but we also have to take that into consideration, that these people do deserve to make a little more. They've got all the risk.
Okay. Bob, I'm actually agreeing with you. Wow.
I'll have to write this one in my diary.
Well, it is on tape, and I will be posting the show, so it will be on here. So, Crucible.
Yeah, just real quick. I think it was an interesting concept that you raised a little while ago when you said, do managers get reviewed? Well, obviously they get reviewed by other managers because they report to other managers. But one of the things I think is intriguing, and you mentioned it, not just writing something down at the bottom of your performance review at the end, what about how am I doing kind of a thing. I think they ought to take a chunk of the manager's bonus, maybe not his salary, or maybe the raise, whatever, however they're doing it, and base that on feedback. And I'm not saying the whole thing 100%. Let's say 25% of it. is based on feedback from the people that they're responsible for. So, in other words, pick 10 categories that you're going to measure these managers, and don't take the manager's manager word for how they're performing. Take the word of the people who are affected by this person's management style, personality, and decision making every single day, and have them evaluate 10 different categories, or 5 or 8, whatever the number is, and base that person's raise, part of it, on the feedback they get from the employees. And if the manager comes in at a certain grade or above, they'll get their full, whatever that percentage of that bonus was supposed to be, they'll get the whole thing. If they fall below it, maybe there's a sliding scale, or maybe there's a point at which they don't get anything for that particular bonus area of their compensation. I think if you change the dynamic of how managers get evaluated by letting at least parts of it be based on people who are feeling that management style. Their bosses never feel it. The people below them feel it. So I think it would be an interesting experiment to see how that would work and whether employees would be fair enough to make that even a viable thing going forward. But having your employees evaluate part of your salary increase or bonus, I think would be an interesting experiment.
And that's what I'm saying. And I cannot believe I am agreeing with Crucible. Only on these topics, only on what you just said. Crucible and Bob.
I'm not exactly doing a happy dance yet.
Within a 5-minute span, good Lord. Jesus help me. The angels are going to sing. So, but no, I mean, because it just bothers me that when you read and read, or you see on the news or whatever, that these CEOs are getting so much money, and you have all this anarchy going on something else, no matter what it is, and they're just sitting pretty, right now, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. And again, just like I say, when celebrities say, I don't give autographs, or I don't take selfies, or whatever, or I don't do this for my fans, and I'm like, well, if it weren't for them, you wouldn't have sold those records. If it weren't for your fans who went to go see those movies and stuff, you wouldn't have what you have. So when I see, you're getting all these bonuses and stuff, if it weren't for the employees who are doing all the work, you as a director or manager or supervisor or whatever, you wouldn't be getting these bonuses if it weren't for the people who are under you. And I have been a peon many times, and it's like, well, can I get a little something, but yet they're smiling, and we have become millionaires, and you're getting nothing. So yeah. So again, I said I was going to keep my show to an hour and 15. We're at an hour 28. So I will start with Shelby and Shy Lady are not here. So I will start with Crucible. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
No, I pretty much said my piece on that last thing there. But yeah, interesting show. I think anytime you can really drill down into the dynamics of a workplace, I mean, when you consider how much time people spend at work, how much of their physical lives they give, but also psychologically, the stress that comes from people's jobs. If we can just move that needle a little bit for everybody, and again, I'm not going for communism here, because that just means we're going to be equally poor. But if you can move the needle for everybody a little bit, the increase in productivity and morale, turnover would be lower. It's like throwing a pebble into a pond. The ripple effect is almost impossible to measure, but as a society of workers and managers, we still have our heads up where they shouldn't be. So I'm not going to hold my breath, but the dynamics of the workplace in terms of how it affects everybody's lives is overwhelming, and we just neglect it too much.
Okay. Bob?
Yeah, just I echo what Crucible said. A good analogy would be like there's literally a pie there, and it feels right now that the people at the top are taking 90% of that pie, and we get 10, and we're not asking for 50-50, not at all, because obviously the people at the top are the ones at risk. They have the risk, but at least, 60-40, maybe not even that, 70-30. Like, just give us enough to be able to put food on the table, maybe take a holiday once a year, look after our family, and obviously set some aside for when we're old. And right now, that's not something that most of us can do, so there's clearly an issue. But yeah, this was a great topic, and thanks for having me on.
Of course, of course. So, guys, this is it. And I said I was going to try to keep my shows to an hour and 15, but stop laughing. So, all right, y'all. So, that's it. That is all I have. And until next time, tomorrow, I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Until then, and go where the wind takes you. And no matter where you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. And to Jester, Bobby, Power Girl, Crucible, Shy Lady, Juju, and Minnesota family, thank you for coming. Frankie, Ba, Crazy Lady was here earlier. She was on the panel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate all of you guys for coming. And there were some other people that popped in. I can't remember. I apologize. But Crucible and Bod, don't get too happy. I only agree with you all on this show. A couple of things, not for everything. Oh boy! And for everybody on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, thank you so much. Okay, y'all.